All right, folks. Welcome to Hendo Health and Wellness. This is something that I've probably been wanting to do for a long time. Oh, okay. Thank you, Chip. I see what I was doing early. The thing is that I want you
I
guys.
think somebody's got an inside track here already.
I see. The one thing is I want everybody to understand is that we are in need of grown folk conversation, grown men talking, especially everything that's going on right now. So I asked these 4 or 3 gentlemen personally. I personally know them. I want you guys to understand that we are going to have an open dialogue, a respectful dialogue. We will try not to talk over each other, but there might be times where we might get into a back and forth, but it's all respectable back and forth. Again, my name is Daryl Yates, sponsored by Hendo Health and Wellness. Of course, that's the company that I have. And I appreciate who all's listening into this live, I'm not going to say interview, this live conversation that we are having. I just want you to know that, again, it is much needed. And I want you guys to just be able to listen to what is being said, understand that we have our own personal point of views. And I want you guys to take this as a teachable moment. So what we're going to do now is go through introductions. Then after that, we're going to go into prayer. And then we're going to get into the conversation. Again, my name is Daryl Yates. I am the CEO and founder of Hendo Health and Wellness. This is my program called For Example. The reason why it's called For Example is in honor of my mom and my father. For example is one of the things my father would always say before he would give us an answer or let us know that we're doing something wrong. He always would say, for example, and then he would give us a reason why we shouldn't be doing what we're doing. And the reason why it's on the 13th is my mom's birthday is on the 13th and she transitioned on the 13th. So again, this whole concept is based upon my mother and father. And with that being said, Rob, you can go ahead.
Thanks. Rob Kirkland, strength conditioning coach out here in Virginia, and been looking forward to this.
Tony?
I'm Tony Rutledge, Henderson, Kentucky. I'm a school teacher here at the school. I teach construction and have coached many things. One thing that you're not going to believe that I coached cheerleading for about 22 years. I also coach archery and the bass fishing team. Supposed to coach football, never got into that, but football is definitely my passion. So.
Yeah.
Hey there, I'm Chip Crafton, live here in Henderson, Kentucky. I own a tank repair business, construction company. Got a beautiful wife, Tammy, 2 kids. I've been coaching archery for a bunch of years here in Henderson County, coach football. I love kids. I love the opportunity. I love when people want to listen and be taught. And I'm ready to listen to be taught. And Daryl, you and I have had a lot of conversations, and I've been looking forward to this opportunity. Didn't know who it was, but here we are, and look forward to this conversation.
Somebody's TV's in the background.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
Let me move.
So before every conversation, what I love doing is having an icebreaker. I don't want anybody to be tense because once we get started, we're going to get into it both feet. So the icebreaker is, and whoever wants to answer this first, unless you want me to pick somebody, the icebreaker is, what was your worst job and why?
Hey, before we answer, hey, Daryl. Hey, before we do that,
okay.
Open a word of prayer.
My bad. Let's do that then. Let's do that right quick. Let's do that right quick.
And
Open a word of prayer.
Tony, I'm still hearing some background noise there. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord,
Wait just a minute.
Lord, I'm thankful for this opportunity.
Hold on, Chip.
So many conversations.
Chip. Hold on.
Wait just a minute, brother.
Sound off. Sound off.
Taking time to put up all this extra bracing. Because if you start lifting this, it's going to come apart.
Okay, there we go.
Perfect.
Go ahead.
Now we're good.
All right. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I just thank you, Lord, for these brothers here, Lord, that are here, that are willing to open up their hearts, Lord, and have a conversation. This country is such in need for a long time to just be open and honest, Lord. And Lord, I know we come from different places, different races, and different things, Lord, but that's okay. It's okay to be different. It's okay to have a different opinion. What is important, Lord, is we love and mutually respect each one of all of God's people, Lord, not just certain types of people. Lord, I love you, and I'm thankful that Yogi's here and these other gentlemen are here, and we're open to have this conversation. Be with us. In the only precious name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Man. So the icebreaker is, again, I repeat, what was your worst job and why?
Hauling hay as a young kid, and then just having to tear my arms up, and I wasn't used to the manual labor. Of course, that was a long time ago, but I hated it.
For me, was go ahead.
Go ahead,
For
sir.
me, definitely working in the milk dairy in high school one summer. I hated every minute of it, and it gave me a new appreciation for why I understand why folks don't drink milk. I'll just leave it at that.
Mine was working in a tobacco field. We started working, my brother and I started working in tobacco fields when we turned about 10 years old. And for about 2 years, at that time, you had plant beds that you had to work in. And we sat in the plant beds all day long, pulling plants, tobacco plants, putting them in burlap sacks so that other people can go ride the setter and plant them. And we sat there from daylight till dark, and I hated it. The sun, they're right out in the middle of the field in the hot heat and sun, and you're sitting there all day long, bend over, pulling tobacco plants. Hated it. I always said I was going to have an acre of tobacco and make my kids raise an acre of tobacco, and then we're just going to burn it, not sell it or anything else. Just get rid of it.
I did tobacco and I threw hay bales over the summer. My worst job was working at that jean place. So somewhere off of Main Street.
Sites Denim.
Denim.
I worked there.
Thank you. I worked there at Sites Denim. My cousin and I know Edward's probably listening, and we worked for 12 hours straight. All I did was shovel rocks into this daggone oven for 12 hours straight. And I promise you, I was exhausted. So we worked from 6 to 6 at night to 6 in the morning. And it was incredibly tough. It was ridiculous. I don't ever want to go back and do that for a summer job, which I know I'm not, but that was the worst thing ever.
Yeah, I did that.
So
I did that once as well. And that was Stonewash jeans. And that's when I was introduced to Stonewash jeans. And I was like, I will never buy a pair of Stonewash jeans the rest of my life because of throwing those rocks in those big drives. I hate it.
Oh, I hate it too. And the thing is, it didn't matter how you look in, you was completely covered with soot and dirt leaving, and give me nightmares sometimes. So let's jump right on into it. Let's get ready to rock and roll. And again, be respectful of whoever starts off answering, and be respectful for the comments that people have to make. Again, this is our own personal opinion. A week ago today, we had a situation at the Capitol. I just want to know, what is your opinion about what happened and what should happen from this point on?
That event, if you're talking about the Capitol, that's a tragic situation, Daryl, that should never happen. Protests in this country are good. Peaceful protests. We, just like we're doing right now, are having an open conversation. That's what our country was founded on. So we should be able to go and assemble and peacefully protest anywhere, whether it's Oregon, in the city streets there, or if it's in Washington, D.C. Now, I'm glad you brought it up because, we have laws in this country and we have rules and we should follow them. And if you don't follow the rules or laws, and I know by our parents, Daryl, that we got in trouble. There's consequences. So whoever broke the law, whoever those folks are that stormed the Capitol, if the law is you should go 10 years to prison because that's defaming one of the monuments, I think President Trump mentioned that. That's exactly what should happen. Should go to jail immediately, no questions asked.
Do you think the laws apply to everybody the same?
No, they don't.
Why?
And that's
Unfortunately not.
I'm sorry, Tony.
I said, unfortunately not. Ed, you mentioned Edward a while ago. Edward and I had a long talk about a week ago, 5 or 6 days ago. And I saw his point clearly. And, I've never experienced what he has experienced. We had a long conversation about several different things. I've never experienced what he's experienced. And it made me think differently about some things. And so no, the answer to that is no, it doesn't apply to everybody the same, and it should, but for some reason it does not.
I mean, we can all agree what happened was tragic. The issue I have is that it happened in the first place. And for anybody not to be able to see that we were going to end up at this point, you're in a huge state of denial. And I think the main reason why that happened, two reasons. One, it's a fear. What exactly people fear, I don't know. I got a good idea, but hopefully it'll all, unravel within this conversation. And then the other thing is this constant need to be right, and we've reached a point in society where I'm not listening to you. I'm only interested in you listening to me, and you're gonna listen to me. And if not, then you're a snowflake, you're this, you're that, and so on and so forth. That therein lies the problem. We can't have a conversation because folks are talking at each other. They're not talking to each other.
That's exactly right, Rob.
Well, but I also believe too that the thing is that people are not wanting to listen to what we have to say. Mm-hmm. What irritates me is all I listened to for the past week and a half is, well, we're going to compare what happened at the Capitol to Black Lives Matter. To me, that's apples and oranges in so many different ways. If you look at what Black Lives Matter was founded for, why it started, why they were protesting, is because of police brutality, Black folks being shot in the back while they're sleeping, so on and so forth. And it was a protest because how many more people are we going to watch be killed before something is being done? Again, like you mentioned earlier, Chip, there are rules and laws. But just like the question I asked, are those laws applied to everybody equally? And they are not. Even with the Capitol invasion of these terrorists, they tried to, well, some people tried to say, even news outlets try to say it was Antifa dressed as Trump supporters. When you seen Trump hats, flags, and everything else, to me, it's like, even we watching a certain group of folks doing certain things, they still get the benefit of the doubt. Whereas Black Lives Matter got called thugs and we need to be out of the country. They were immediately called terrorists when they were founded after the Trayvon Martin situation, 6 or 7 years ago. Before they even made major notoriety, they were already labeled as a terrorist group. When you got so many folks right now that are out there, people even said, yes, there were some things going on, some property damage, but they failed to mention that a police officer was beaten to death and died. Something got to give. Anybody can. on that. I mean, it's to me. Let me ask. Okay, let me put the question out there. What is the difference between Black Lives Matter and, or why are they comparing Black Lives Matter to this group at the Capitol?
Probably because there was a rule or law broken. Let's just use Portland. Let's use that in that city. You know, Black Lives Matter and the idea and why it was founded is legitimate. Absolutely, no question. And there's a stage and a place to go and voice your opinions and your concerns, and that was going on. That's what our country was founded on, guys. That's important, to be able to right, wrong, and different, whether or not I or you or anybody else agrees or disagrees. The fact that we can go out and state our opinion is very, very important to this country. Where the line is crossed is when things start to go haywire, and we, people of authority, whether it's the police or city officials, allow things to continue without those repercussions. That's why I think it's being brought up in the same kind of context. We allowed something to a protest that turned somewhat violent and damaged property. We allowed that to happen. We had a protest in Washington that got violent, and we shouldn't allow that to happen. We shouldn't allow it to happen, period.
Why
In any case.
Why did the protest in Washington get violent?
Why
I
did it
don't
get
know, because
violent?
a few
Yes.
I think it got violent
small percentage of people decided.
because of
Hold on. Go ahead, Chip, and then Tony, you go right after you.
okay.
Go ahead, Chip.
I think just like in Portland, there's 99% of the people there that just want their voices heard, and there's a small number of people that just want to create chaos. Same thing happens here. I do believe. I don't know those people. You know, all I do know is that I know the majority of the folks I think that were there were probably there just to have their voices heard.
Okay.
Just like Black Lives Matter in another city, whether it be Portland or whatever. Go ahead, Rob.
Here's where I would disagree with that. In one, their voices are being heard because people are literally being shot by police. The other is, we do not like the results of this election. So my question to everybody is, what exactly are you protesting? Because it's the people have spoken. The people spoke. So what exactly now are you protesting? And then also, if you're protesting, why are you not protesting the entirety of every election, even down ballot? That is my problem with when I hear that they were protesting, because I don't understand, A, what you're protesting, and B, I don't understand why you didn't protest everything, because you can't cherry pick. Well, no, this is okay. You know, Alaska's okay. You know, and Montana's okay, but Philadelphia, Wisconsin, Arizona, timeout. That's my problem with all of this. And it turned violent because there was already violence. I mean, we had Charlottesville happen, and nobody was really, I mean, yeah, you had people arrested, but the messaging was never, look, this is not America. We cannot be about that. We have to find a better way to handle it. It got spun up more and more and more. And I referenced what happened last week to Rwanda. And I was having a conversation with somebody about this. Rwanda, all we saw was the day that everything happened. What you didn't know and what you didn't hear is the 9-10 years prior, that every day they were on the radio spinning these people up. We just saw the end result. What we saw last week was the end result. And until we get back to being honest, let's just be honest. I'd rather people tell me, I don't like the election because my guy lost. Okay, fine. I can deal with that. Let's have a conversation about that. But to make up everything and throw all this other stuff in there of dead people voted in, and there were irregulars. There's irregularities in every single election. But like I said, to cherry pick, I got a problem with that.
I forget what we were talking about at the very beginning. You started saying, and I interrupted Chip a minute, and then you stopped me. And what were we talking about there? You're talking about you said what caused it.
Yeah.
What caused last week? I believe what caused last week was that, and I back up to the conversation Ed and I had last week as well. I voted for Trump. I'm going to go ahead and put that out there. I voted for Trump on the policies that he ran on. He ran on lower taxes. He wanted to bring jobs back from China, from Mexico. He wanted to close down the border. He wanted fossil fuels. I've never seen fuel as low as it is right now, or what it was a year ago. We haven't seen that for 30 years, 25, 30 years. I don't want higher taxes. I don't want more government. But that being said, that's why I voted for him when he voted. He lost the election. We lost the election. He went to Washington, D.C., and then he rallied the troops. This is something Edwards said, and I agree with him 100% after I thought about it. I'm for make America first, make America number one. I can see now, because I haven't watched the news in over a week. It's just making me sick. I watched it a little bit last night, and I watched it a little bit this morning again, talked to a couple people. And all this stuff that's going on since last week that's going on in our country scares me to death. And I started thinking about that. Why did last week happen? Well, not only was it rallying supporters like me, I'm not a supremacist by no means at all. There's not a prejudice bone in my body. Never has been, never will be. My parents taught me that way. To love everybody. We love everybody. I love everybody. I tell everybody I love them. I tell you I love you. I tell Chip I love him. I tell Ed I love him. I tell everybody I talk to I love him. And I do. Honestly do. But I can see that I think that he sparked another trigger on this white supremacy, and that's why it's exploding all over the place. And I can't stand it. I don't want to be a part of that. I'm not a part of that. I don't want to be associated with that. But that's what I'm seeing coming out, and I hate that. I don't like that feeling. I don't want to be associated with something like that. I was associated with Trump on policy issues that I liked, but it's gone to a whole nother level, and I never looked at it that way. I was looking at America first, but if you look at America first, I guess it can be taken a lot of different ways for people who are white supremacists or have racial issues and things like that. They can take it even to a whole nother level, and it rises them up. I don't want to ever be associated with that, and it feels like I'm getting associated with that. Anybody have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I was going to say, just today on the news, Tony, it appears, and I was going to bring, you just brought it up, I'm not prejudiced, but I am white. I have a whole lot of friends that are from different colors and races, rich, poor, handicapped, single moms, the whole gamut. And yet I feel like over the last week, all of a sudden, one of the TV channels, not Fox, says that because I like President Trump and the policies that he put out there, taxes and close the borders down, I don't think we should have folks come in here to steal our jobs when we got our own problems here in America with people trying to find jobs. But I'm being labeled as a white supremacist because I like his policies, and that's not fair.
So
here's go ahead,
Rob. Go ahead, Rob.
Okay, so Chip, here's the only issue I have with the people coming here stealing our jobs. I watched the documentary one time, and it was a farmer out in California who he lost all of his Hispanic help. He offered his job to his white friends, and they all said no.
Mm-hmm.
I submit to you that nobody's coming here taking jobs. Let's be
no.
honest. We got a lot of lazy folks here in America. There are folks in this country that won't take a job because they feel it's beneath them. So I've always really cringed when I hear that they're coming here taking our jobs, because the reality is the jobs that a lot of people do, that people say or fear that they're taking their jobs, they wouldn't do themselves.
I don't disagree with that. How much money does our government send to foreign countries?
Say again?
How much money does our country send to foreign countries every year?
Too much.
See, that is like a trick question, because the amount of money that we send, we receive a hell of a lot more, because we can even go back to the Gulf War. We went into the Gulf War for what? It had nothing to do with weapons of mass destruction, because all we wanted was to take over the whole oil. We've made billions and billions and billions of dollars. Let's not even get into Africa itself, an amount of money that's been pilfered from the diamonds to the resources and everything that's came from Africa, and Africa ain't got nothing to show for it but a whole bunch of overnight video.
My point is that we've got to take care of ourselves. We've got folks here in this country that are hurting, that need assistance.
Well, why are they? But I keep on asking.
So if we've got that problem, and we're trying to figure out how to get universal health care, which is a great idea.
Oh, is it? Is it now? And hold on, Chip.
It's always
funny. Here's what's funny. The health care that is out here right now, what's amazing is that because Obama put it out, everybody hated it. But so many people are benefiting from it now. It's amazing how we talk about how America is so great. But I asked this question when that hat is being worn and it says, "Make America Great Again." When was America great for all of us? This country was not founded on some of the ideologies that people love to go to, the founding fathers did. No, slavery was a big thing. Slavery was a big commodity. We still to this day don't get the benefit of the doubt, regardless of what degrees we have, what we can provide to whatever company. We as Black folks still don't get the benefit of the doubt, and we still get looked at in a way to where we second class when we are just as capable and able as anybody else. So I look at all of this and we say that we got a lot of jobs, but I asked that question, name me a Fortune 500 company that is ran by Black folks. The top 3, 4, 5% of companies being ran, they're not being ran by anybody look like me. And if that continues on, how can we benefit from what's going on if we're not at the table? We don't have a seat at the table. So in order for us to even be recognized, we got to be at the table. And that's not happening all the time.
Going back to what go ahead, Chip.
No. I think there's more diversity in Congress and in the Senate now than there ever has been with women and minorities. I mean, that's where we make changes, is we make it there at the congressional level. We make it by here having these important conversations at the local level and us being honest, with one another. And we got to change the hypocrisy, and we've got to just treat each other kindly, and we're not doing that. There are different sets of rules for different people, and that's not right. Whether you're white, Black, rich, poor, it doesn't matter. One set of rules got to be applied to everybody, and until we can start doing that on both sides of the fence, we're not going to get anywhere. It's always going to be a divide.
What rules does Black folks have implemented on white folks is not the same? I'm just asking.
I don't know.
This is just an overall. I mean, that's for anybody to answer. What rules are we providing that are biased towards white folks?
I don't know.
What, rule or law?
It doesn't matter.
If I can,
That's an open question. Go ahead, Rob.
back to what Chip said about diversity within Congress. And while on the surface, yes, it is diverse. We have more women. The problem is you can be and look diverse and not be about diversity. And I say
Well,
that
that's correct.
I say that to say that, and going back to even Tony, what you were saying about policy, my issue is you can have policies that don't apply to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is this administration didn't apply to everybody. Just look at the administration as a whole. And I'll never forget it. Somebody asked Barr, or during one of his hearings, they didn't ask him. They said, you have not hired one person of color within the Department of Justice. So how do you fight for equal and fair justice when you don't have people that look like the very people that don't get justice? And he kind of shrugged it off like, so what's your point? So we can have people that look diverse, but if they're not for diversity, we're still treading water.
Well,
Does that make sense?
You're right, Rob. You're right.
Yeah,
Rob.
that makes
We've been brainwashed. We've been brainwashed for years, Rob. I used to see, and I didn't watch politics a lot when I was young. I pay a lot more attention to it now. And it appears every time I turn the news on, if it's a Democratic talking point, the Democrats rally behind that talking point and vote carte blanche. Same thing with the Republicans. If it's a Republican talking point, they vote Republican straight. You cannot tell me, guys, that there's not a Republican or Democrat that probably thinks that's not a good idea, and they have a different thought process. It doesn't happen very often.
Well, and there's plenty of them that think differently. I mean, that's evident by the arguing about everything. My thing is down at our level, because those people are so far removed from us, it's not even funny.
That's
They
correct.
say my constituents, but
It's
let's
all
be
about-
honest.
It's all
Let's
about
be honest.
Rob.
And I to quote a movie line, and I can't remember what movie it's from. He said, "What does every first-term senator want?
Yeah.
A second term." That's what these
Period.
people care about, is staying in office. My issue is with us at our level, the people that go to work every day and shop at your local stores, what have you. My issue is we've reached a point where if you are a Republican, you're only interested in listening to what Republicans say. And Democrats are the same way. And my thing is, at what point are we going to get beyond my party and look at things from just, if you and me are talking, Chip, or you and me are talking, Tony, I don't really care about whether you're a Republican or not.
I don't.
Because I
don't know why you're missing that anyway.
want to have a conversation about, okay, where we are right now, how do we make this better? But the problem, like I said, the problem is where we are right now. I'm Republican, I don't really want to listen to you, or I'm Democrat and I don't want to really listen to you. And then when you get even deeper, it's I'm a Republican, I don't like your black face, I don't want to talk to you. You don't matter. And people cringe that they had a problem with Black Lives Matter. I don't agree with everything that they do. I don't agree with defund the police. But at the same time, the fact that we even have to quantify this or have this conversation that we matter it's astounding to me. Because why do I have to justify that I matter?
Yeah.
Just matter in this country. And I say this to my wife all the time. As a black man in this country, I'm not afforded the latitude to get angry or to express my anger. Because if I do, I'm looked at as a threat. Oh my gosh, he's angry.
Yes.
And that is the truth. You all can get mad all day long. The people last week, they got mad, they got angry. We ain't taking it no more. We're going in here and we're gonna hang Mike Pence. We're gonna hang Nancy Pelosi. And people looked at us, they're angry. Really?
Not only that, and then Tony, I'm gonna get to you. But not only that, the problem that I had is that when the people, let me take that word back, when the terrorists was invading the Capitol, they walked in knowing that nothing was going to happen to them at all. If you go and look at that video of the black man in the hallway, he got his hand on his gun. The guy looking out, he walking up to him like, what you gonna do to me? You're not gonna do a damn thing to me because I am who I am. You're not gonna do anything to me. Now, I asked the question over and over and over again, whoever wants to entertain that, what would have happened if that was Black Lives Matter coming up to the Capitol?
It would have been a bloodbath.
What would have
Yes.
it would have been a
Would've
complete
been a bloodbath.
bloodbath. And I was watching another news outlet who tried to justify, like, oh my God, look at the terrorists running around over the summer. No, it's no comparison because there was no invasion. Police officer got beat down. Another person got killed because they tried to jump in. The senators, just like you said earlier, Pence, they was wanting to hang Pence. The guy had zip ties.
They had a gallows
and they walked
set up on the west side of the Capitol.
and they knew about this 3, 4, 5 weeks prior to all of this. And I asked a question earlier, why? The reason why is because Trump incited all of this. There is no way in the world that would have been a Pat Obama. There is no way in the world that he would have been allowed to make a speech 1 hour prior to, and then they go down to the Capitol while he goes back into the White House, and then folks sit back and destroy, kill, try to go and take hostage of our elected officials. And he still walks around, and then just yesterday morning he goes and say, well, hey, I didn't do nothing wrong. To me, that's where I have a difficult time understanding how folks can support this man. Damn the policies. The policies only going to affect a certain amount of people when it's all said and done. Because the tax breaks, that's for the 1%ers. Because I lost money come tax time. Matter of fact, I got 2/3 less than what I normally get on return. So that does not fully affect me, like Rob alluded to earlier. We're talking about the regular local folks. How are we affected during these times? Go ahead, Tony. I know what it is.
Like I said a while ago, I disagree with what happened on last weekend. I don't like the fact that it seems that, it doesn't seem he enticed, I think, that movement towards the Capitol. And he was my president. He still is my president for a couple more days. But
and Joe Biden will be ours next.
Joe Biden will be my president in a month from now. Well, on the 20th, which was what, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days away. I agree with you. I mean, it was terrorists that walked into the Capitol. They should have never happened. I agree with you 100%. If it was Black Lives Matter going in there, Rob said it'd be a bloodbath. I believe that probably would have happened. And that's sad. And that's the two sides that it shouldn't be like that. And I don't know where it went wrong like that, because I know if I would have done that, my mom and dad would have snatched me up and it would have been my tail. I never would have been allowed to do it. I would have never even thought about doing that. I don't know why people think that that's okay to go do that. You're trespassing. Okay. But they think that. They think they're okay to do it. Just like I think Daryl said it, or maybe Rob said it, that, they walked into the Capitol building, they walked by the guy that had his hand on the gun and just like, what are you going to do? You ain't going to do nothing. And they just kept going. You should respect authority. Law enforcement should be respected. Also on that part, that's why Black Lives Matters got going so strong. It's because of all the injustice and the two-sided part of it. If I get pulled over, it's not going to be a difficult problem. But if Daryl, if you get pulled over, it's a totally different situation. It's not that we're both human beings, but it's because of the color of our skin. And this is the conversation Edward and I had. And I never saw that because I never had to experience it. But I will tell you that, my sister-in-law is from the Philippines. She's Filipino. So I'm starting to experience it a little bit through my nephew and my niece, because they see some prejudice there because of their skin color. They're half Filipino and half American, but their skin is, tan, and people look at them differently than they do me as a white person. Is that right? Absolutely not. How do we fix it? I think I heard somebody saying this week, not was last week or a couple of weeks ago on the news, they were talking about it, and education, need more education with law enforcement. I believe that. I mean, there needs to be so much training in how to deal with people, because that part is not there. On their side, I know that, it's a very stressful job, but also you need to learn how to deal with people. You need to learn how to communicate with people. I said it often and several times that, my dad and my brother, they would never be able to do what I've done, dealing with different personalities all the time, because I always dealing with different, when you're dealing with kids and stuff, you've always got different personalities. You don't know the background. You don't know where they came from. You don't know their needs and what makes them tick, but you've got to handle certain people differently. And as coaches, right, you can get on this kid extremely hard, but this kid right here, you can look at them and get the same effect out of it. But that's learning how to deal with people. And a lot of people don't know how to handle situations.
That's reading your audience.
And I think it comes from a lot of training, but I've been thinking about this all week long, about having this conversation, and I never get off the phone with any of my friends. I don't care if they're black, white, purple, green, gay, straight, doesn't matter. Always in the conversation with, I love you, brother. I love you. Always. And I've had people ask me, why did you tell him you love him? Well, that's because I do. I've always been that way. I'm a hugger. I like to hug. I shake hands. And I don't know how to fix this, because I see what you're talking about. I know that happens, but is it the breakdown of the family? I don't know. I know I had great parents. I had great parents that taught us right and wrong, taught us that that's not accepted. Is that being taught? I would say probably not. Is it breakdown of the male role models out there? I think that's a big problem. I think you need a strong male in your life. Everybody needs a strong male in their life, and a strong female, because mothers, we all love our mothers, and you go to your mother when you're hurting. I don't know the answer to it, but I do know that, this are conversations that need to be held all the time. Are we going to make mistakes? Absolutely. We're going to make mistakes every day. How do you get up from them? You've got to be able to, I think Rob said it a while ago, you got to be able to listen to other people and be able to accept it. It doesn't mean that you're not right. It doesn't mean that you're wrong. It doesn't mean that they're wrong. And you can be strong about your feeling. It's okay to have a different opinion about things, and it's okay to be passionate about it. But that passion can't go to being doing illegal things and storming the Capitol, or setting a building on fire.
Differences of opinion should not affect our principles, and we've lost track of our principles.
You mentioned your family.
Your deep thought, Rob. So what are you thinking? Because I see your deep thought.
I've heard the family breakdown. I've heard the father. What I submit to you all is it's as simple as this. We all have biases. Every last one of us walking the face of the earth. The problem is we're not willing to admit those biases. That is the central problem. It's not it's but at the end of the day, we have biases. I got biases towards people that look like me. So does Yogi. But the thing is, with those biases, number one, are you acknowledging that you have a bias? Or are you seeking to understand rather than be understood? And what I see is there are people in this country that they will not admit that they have a bias. I hear all the time, well, I don't see color. You're lying. That is a lie. you do see color. And what I've discovered is I don't see color as a way out of not admitting that you have a bias.
Mm-hmm.
So
go ahead.
And as far as police, I keep hearing training. You know, you have to be trained to not dehumanize someone. You know, that's
No, you shouldn't have to.
I don't agree with, well, they need more training. No, you just need to be able to look at a person like me or like Yogi and not think I fear for my life. Admit
Or like
that you
me,
have a
or like
bias. So right. But you get what I'm saying. So to me,
I understand.
as they're going through this training on perps and everything else, put a part in there about biases, because I guarantee you could get rid of a lot of these cops that think shoot first, ask questions later. If you find out early on, oh, you don't like that person, or you think differently of that person because they're black or because they're Hispanic, you're probably not a good fit for this department, sir.
Hey, Rob, I bet if you go back and look at and profile the bad cops, the cops that have made some very, very poor decisions in judgment on pulling a weapon, firing a weapon, with calls, without calls. I bet if you go back and look at those folks, you know, and I know that there are some folks that mentality-wise just want to be in control and want to be able to tell people what to do because of whatever's happened or didn't happen in their life as a young person. And they get a little bit of authority and it goes to their head. I bet 90% of those people that have had those issues, I bet there's a direct correlation. If you go back and profile like you're talking about, or look at, hey, you're not fit in this department because you think a little differently about this person. I bet there's some control issues going on with some of those folks.
Well, but
I don't doubt that, but
hold on. But let's be clear. Some people get into police department directly for the power to control other folks. There is no training that's going to erase a person who's a complete racist.
Right.
You can stay in training for a few years, but here's the thing that here's what I want to happen. If you go and shoot an unarmed person, your ass, and you don't have no reason for it, I need for the convictions to start. I need for those folks to start. Breonna Taylor, she's asleep. They have a warrant that we just found out that it was completely a false, made-up warrant. They go and shoot the house up. The cop that shot her got in more trouble for shooting a damn wall than for shooting Breonna. He gets off with some slap on the wrist and it keeps moving. It happened to Sandra Bland. It happened to—
Why did that happen, Yogi?
It happened to all. My point is this: things would change when you start seeing people go to jail. And the example that I have, if you go back and you look at Minnesota, if y'all sit back and it didn't get a lot of airtime, it was a white lady ran up to the car, a black man, I believe he was a Muslim religion, black man, Muslim man or from a different ethnicity. He shot and killed her. He said, I was in fear of my life. His butt went to jail. And not only did he go to jail, the family ended up getting $20 million. If you go back into Chicago with the young man who was supposedly wielding a knife, and
Ron McDonald.
Thank you. Supposedly that they held that tape for a year. When we showed the tape, they showed he wasn't even near the man. He got shot when he was on the ground. Guess what?
Time.
None of them got any time at all. And we see it happening and happening and happening again. And my last point is this, well, really 2 points. I always tell folks when I get pulled over, when you get pulled over, you are in fear of getting the ticket. If I get pulled over, I'm in fear of losing my life. Two totally different mindsets. I get nervous all the time. And I look at it in the sense of, why am I being nervous when I'm in the court system? Every day, all day. I should not, as an educated black man, have to sit back and be in fear if I see a Trump Pence flag, or I see a Make America Great hat. When I'm on my motorcycle and I go out past in Illinois, go out past Pierre Marquette, and then once I get past that area and I'm just riding around, if I see a Trump flag, I'm in fear because I'm like, oh Lord, how much gas do I have? If I get stopped, am I gonna get shot or killed? If I go and have an issue, or I blow a tire, am I gonna knock on the door? Before I even articulate anything, I'm already in fear that if I go and approach anybody with that hat on or with that sticker on their car or that flag in their yard, I'm nervous. And it should not be like that. I should not be judged automatically based upon my color. You have
Yogi,
no idea who I am as a person, and that should not be happening. And it's
Yogi,
and it still happens.
Yogi, to the same point, you shouldn't be. I've got a Trump flag in my yard. You shouldn't feel that way.
Why wouldn't I feel that way?
Because you know who I am.
Well, no. See, that's the problem. See, the thing is, here's the issue that I have. It's not about.
But there's others just like me, Yogi, that have the same heart. That you can't compartmentalize an entire group and stereotype everybody just because. That's the same thing that's going on right now. That's what's causing the division right now. Is that we can't lump. I can't lump. If you're a Black Lives Matter supporter, I cannot lump one person with hundreds. I can't do that. That's not fair.
The difference. Here's the argument. The difference in the argument you make. You don't know if I'm a Black Lives Matter supporter, whether or not. All you know is that I'm a black man. You know me. That's
right.
That's a different category. It's just like I give you an example. I'm going out to my godfather's house. He lives out past East Heights. I ride past there. I have every right to feel the way that I feel based upon my experiences. If I've experienced negativity based upon what people believe and what I see on a daily basis, is that I feel a certain way because of what I have experienced. The thing is that I'm in fear simply because of what I have seen. And it's unfortunate, but I can't help that. That's the way it is. Rob, you ready to say something?
I was going to say, I mean, you're right. You cannot lump everybody in, but you also cannot have the assumption going the other way that anytime something happens, it's Black Lives Matter. No. Like last week, like last week, because we're talking about, you know, the events of last week. Almost immediately after, it was Antifa. It was Antifa, the boogeyman. It was Antifa, and it's like, come on, y'all, just own your stuff. That's my thing. Own it. Don't run from it. Own it. Don't make excuses for it. Own it.
And I'm gonna give you plenty of time, Chip or Tony, to answer. Here's what I really want folks to understand, especially the folks that are listening. I have fear because of the history that I have learned over the years. I'll give an example. You look at Henderson. Henderson was separated without having, so to speak, that wall. If you remember before on First Street, before they built that bridge, you had those railroad tracks. Majority of the white folks lived on the other side, with the exception of Chad Atkins. Hey, Chad, if you're listening. Or with the exception of Chad Atkins, maybe a few other folks. He was on the other side. But for the most part, everybody lived on the other side of those tracks. If you notice, I've been to Smith Mills. I've been to your house. I party with you guys. If you remember back in the day, not very many people went to Dixon Street. And that's where majority of the black folks was at. I was down at the riverfront. I remember at the riverfront, you had people drunk, passed out, fighting. Not one damn cop came down there and broke it up. We get a sneeze on Dixon Street, folks going to jail, folks getting their cars towed, all these different things. My point is this. I feel a certain way because of how I had to experience a lot, especially going to St. Louis. When I drove in St. Louis with my 7.8 Impala that I still got in my garage to this day, being pulled over at least 3 to 4 times a week based upon when I'm driving. And in certain neighborhoods, I still to this day can't go in certain neighborhoods in St. Charles or all these other places without having a fear of being watched, or when I go into these malls and still being followed. I would guarantee the majority of the people that don't look like me don't experience that on a daily basis. It doesn't matter. There were times I just got out of court and I had on a 3-piece suit, clean as a tick. That's an old country saying. But the point is that, Rob, we're playing. You just as country.
I saw Rob laugh.
Pretending not to.
You follow. So, y'all got me laughing now. Go ahead, Tony. Go ahead, Tony.
I was just laughing about that, and I did go on Dixon Street a lot of times.
I know you. Left hand forward.
I was down there all the time. Me and Ed would go down in my big black Bronco and ride around everywhere. All the time. Not after every game, matter of fact. But now I totally. I mean, Ed and I love him to death. He's my brother, and we have spent so much time together. I think the world of Ed, and our conversation last week really struck home with me, and it got heated, and I love him for it. But it did strike home because these are prejudices that I don't ever see. I mean, I see them sometimes because I deal with this stuff, and I'm in the school system, and you see different things all the time. You see everything. But I've never experienced it. I never, the stories that he's told me, when I get pulled over, before I even get pulled over, I pull over and I'll have my insurance card and my driver's license hanging out the window, and it's, "How you doing, Mr. Rutledge?" Da, 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 and it's handed back to me, and I'm on down the road again. And that's not the same way with a man of color. It's handled totally different. Should it be? Absolutely not. There's no different. And you said a while ago, you're getting pulled over, you're scared of getting a ticket. Yeah, I am. But it's his job to pull me over too if I'm speeding. So on that hand too, if you're speeding, you're supposed to get pulled over. That's their job. But stereotyping, and just because you went into certain parts of Missouri in your car, and just because of the car you were driving and you're a black man behind the wheel, that's not a reason to pull you over.
That's no excuse.
And
That's right.
I know that happens quite often. It happens more than it should ever happen. And
if I'm speeding, I should get a ticket.
Correct.
But I should not be killed.
Exactly.
That's my own. Go ahead.
Exactly right. You shouldn't be.
Tony and Chip, let me ask you a question. Do you believe that part of the events of what happened last week and the anger that people have of the election, do you think it has anything to do with white fear? The fear of losing out, the fear of not being in charge, the fear of not being in control?
For me personally, Rob, I think the anger that most of those folks that were there protesting disagree with the election results. There were some things, you mentioned that it was some things that happened. They happened in a lot of elections. Maybe they happened more in this election than in the past. I find it really hard to believe that Biden got 11 million more votes than Obama did. I find that hard to believe. I don't know how. Maybe they did a really good job of campaigning and getting out. But
Chip, I go back to what I said earlier. They're angry, but you cannot cherry pick the election. You can't say I'm not talking about you. I'm saying it because you said that people are angry. You cannot cherry pick the election and say, "Well, I'm angry, and how did Biden win 11 million votes?" Okay, I'll throw this at you. how did Mitch McConnell win? And because there's the story out now that he won in a heavy Democratic district, and people are trying to figure out, well, wait a minute, time out. That 2 + 2 don't add up there. Yeah. Same with Lindsey Graham. So that's my problem with this, and it goes back to, let's just call it what it is. To me, what I see is that fear that I'm losing out on something, and that I'm not going to be in power. Newsflash. If you're not in Congress, you ain't in power. So stop upholding and defending and fighting for people who don't give a damn about you. Because trust me, Trump wouldn't spit on either one of you if he was walking down the street. He wouldn't. Trump cares about Trump. He does. But we have to stop this narrative and this notion that
I would hope that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Let me finish.
Yeah.
That the presidential election was that was flawed. But none of the down ballots were. And do you understand how ridiculous that you look to stand up there and object to 3 or 4 states or 5 or 6 states, but the rest of them no problem. That alone shows the hypocrisy. It shows the abject nonsense that exists in it right now. You can't pick and choose. You just can't, because either it's all flawed or none of it's flawed. You can't say, well, McConnell won, I ain't got no problem with that. Lindsey Graham won, I got no problem with that.
Rob, I think those states that you're talking about, those have been really close, contentious states for a number of years. This just didn't happen this past election. This has been going on for the past 15, 20 years, where those states are kind of blue, kind of purple, kind of red, they kind of flip-flop. I don't know. I just, that's where all the hoopla was. That's where, the focus was, because it was so close in those states. Think about this too. Think about this too. What are we telling us adults? What are we telling kids that if you lose, it's not your fault? You didn't prepare. It's not your fault. If you lose, no, do over. I lost. What message are you sending to people that, okay, I lost, but that guy has on red colored shoes, so no, that throw it all out.
Well, but I also think too, what we have to recognize is, ever since in 2010, gerrymandering has become the go-to to turn a lot of blue states red. If we're going to talk about fraud, we need to make sure that we address the issue of suppression in the voting. There should not be conversation of times. There should not be. If I've been voting, if you have an elderly lady who's been voting in the same place for 50 years, but we're going to shut that down for no apparent reason. Now she got to go across town, knowing that she only goes by the bi-state or whatever the case may be. You start changing times and all this. To me, it was a methodical tactic across the board to ensure that folks don't have the same opportunity. Because if you look at St. Louis City, you had a lot of people that had their voting sites changed. And you went from having maybe 30 voting areas to maybe 7. But you have still the same voting areas in the more fluid areas where people were going in and out within 30 or 40 minutes. But I can even say there was a couple of times it took me 2 hours to vote. Or when I was in the city, it took me 2.5, 3 hours to vote. To me, that's some BS, because first of all, when it is time to vote, that should be a holiday to where you're not going to work anyway. We need to stop and recognize, like it's been said 1,000,001 times, we have to stop with the BS. We got to stop saying, oh, it was a fraud, but only for a certain amount of people, only in Detroit, or Atlanta, where it's pretty much predominantly black folks. We have to realize that if you are racist, then you are racist. If you don't like me for the color of my skin, I'd rather for you to recognize that, and then we can have a understanding, and then I can keep it moving. But you can't on one hand say, oh yeah, we cool. But then as soon as I turn my back, no, don't give him that job. Don't give him that promotion. Don't deal with him. He's not good for our company. It cannot work like that. And again, the conversation that we are having, it needs to be had.
Rand Paul, and it blew me away, and I had to listen to it twice. He actually said the quiet part out loud. He said that folks that normally, we need to find a way that folks, I'm paraphrasing, that folks that don't normally vote, that they don't vote next time. So in the aftermath of you losing an election, it's not, okay, let's get back to grassroots, let's get back to door knocking. Your number one priority is we got to change, we got to move the goalpost again. And I know that's true because they won't even sign into law the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. I have a feeling it's probably going to get signed into law now, but things like that, the anti-lynching law. I mean, seriously, why is that even a conversation?
Why don't we?
That is my problem. That is my problem. So when I hear people say, well, you know, yeah, there was irregularities. Okay, but you still trying to get my vote thrown out.
Yeah,
that was his issue, and that was the issue that I had with Trump. I would have rather him come out and said, we need to change the rules of those people in Philadelphia where there's predominantly black. Don't come out and just keep lying, because he set this up back in May. If I lose, there's fraud. The man said it. If I lose, it's because of fraud. No, if you lose, it's because you lose.
I realized that everybody came out and voted because they knew it was going to be some form of suppression. Go ahead, Tony.
I was just going to say, why, we have term limits on president. Why do we not have term limits on congressman? I do not think that you should be in office for 20, 30 years and get so deep rooted and so powerful, because I would be willing to bet that some of these congressmen and women that have been there for many, many years are more powerful than the president is. They are. And they, I personally believe that a lot of the anger and across the board on both sides comes from a lot of money being moved and being shut down, and it's created a lot of issues and a lot of problems. And the way you solve that is put term limits on everybody.
Absolutely agree, brother.
I do too, but it's not going to happen because the money is too easy, man. The doggone dude insider traded off of stocks after he heard about the pandemic and did not do jail time.
Traded right there and made billions.
All four of us right now. If we get a stock tip and we mention it right here on this call,
why can't I get that tip, right?
I can guarantee you we're getting a knock on the door tomorrow.
Oh,
right. They'll be coming to see us.
You damn right.
Exactly.
You damn right.
So why is the law not applied to somebody like that? What went wrong? Because
they ride them and they've been there too long.
You said there earlier, Daryl, if you break the law, there's repercussions. If you're speeding, you get a ticket. If you inside trader, you go to jail. If you defame the Capitol and it's a 10-year sentence, then go to jail.
Well,
we
wish it
don't apply
like
the laws. There's no
unfortunately.
repercussions anymore, and the laws don't apply equally to if you're Nancy Pelosi or if you're Chuck Schumer or you're McConnell or Rand Paul, whoever. There's a total separate set of rules for those folks and for us. Why? That's wrong. Division.
They don't apply. They don't apply, and they're never enforced. And I'll prove it to you. Every time there's a shooting, what does everybody say? Well, we need gun laws. No, you don't. You just need to enforce the ones you already have.
Exactly right.
And nobody.
You don't need to keep.
Take a damn
You don't need to keep creating new laws. Just enforce the ones you have. The whole narrative of the whole narrative of and this is why I get the waters get muddied as well. Well, they want to take our guns. No, they don't.
No.
Second Amendment says you can't.
That is a talking point.
It is, but people run off of that line. They're going to come into your homes. They're going to take your gun. No, they are not. It's on the books. Enforce what you have, but we hide behind and we dance around.
Equally,
we need to have a congressional hearing. No, you don't. You only have like right now. What happened last week? Instead of digging into that, and all the time is being spent on impeachment. Now, that's a conversation. If we want to have it, we can have it. I'd much rather the entire Congress be digging deep into what happened last week, because it's coming out that they had inside help.
Yes, and here's the point.
Hold on, I'm gonna make one more point. What concerns me is I'm hearing Republican after Republican, especially some of those who have been implicated in helping. Oh, we just need to move on. Jim Jordan, we need to move on, and we need unity. No, we don't need to move on. We need to put a pin right here, and we need to dig deep and find out who helped.
Well,
and if you help, you need to go to jail.
More and more videos are coming out. They are implicating a lot of these folks that, like you said, because if you got to think about it, stop saying that they breached. They were allowed into the Capitol building. There is no way that if you've been knowing this, FBI has already said. That's why you haven't heard, what's his name, Ray. You haven't heard him come out and speak yet, because they've already been notified that this was going to happen 2 or 3 months ago.
Why didn't they say anything? I heard that today. Why didn't they say anything?
Why
didn't the FBI say anything? I heard that today. The FBI knew.
Well, but yeah, they've been knowing. Not only them, but the Capitol Police knew about it. The DC Police knew about it. So everybody knew about it, because I always go back and look. When formal protests over the summer, they had the National Guard there deep, and they made sure that nobody.
Why was there nobody there? Why did they knew this was? They knew that rally was going to be there. They got to get a permit for the rally, so they already knew the rally was going to happen. Why did they not have? They knew Congress was going to be in session. They probably, if you're halfway intelligent, you knew there would possibly could be some situation happen. Why was there not enough people there to prevent all this from happening in the first place?
Because I'll say it, because they really believed that they could get their mission accomplished. And I mean, we can argue it, we can debate it, but the reality is, and I just need y'all to hear me out on this. They set up a gallows, not for decoration. Their intention was to hang the vice president of the United States. I didn't vote for the man, but there is no way in hell anybody should be trying to hang the vice president of the United States. Right. They were going to hang Nancy Pelosi. So the only conclusion that I can come to is they allowed it to happen, because they really believe. There are people that are this sick to me. They really believe. Take out Pence because he didn't agree with me. He won't do my bidding. Take out Nancy because I don't like her and she's a woman anyway. Oh, I'm good.
Also remember, they were being cheerleaded on, directed through social media by Trump. He said it. Something needs to happen. You cannot slap that man on the wrist and then keep it moving, because entirely too much stuff. But let me say this, and we're gonna start wrapping this up, simply because it is so much more that we need to discuss that we didn't touch on. It's so much more that I want to talk about. The thing is that I'm gonna be respectable of you guys' time. So what we're gonna do for this last 5 minutes is whatever you want to say to summarize this conversation, we can do that. Whoever wants to start, and then I will end it. and then we'll go from there. Whoever wants to start, go ahead.
I just want to say that I appreciate the open conversation. I appreciate the fact that, as I put it on Facebook last night, that, I asked folks that I sent messages to come join us. I don't know if they're listening or not, that, it's okay to be different, have different opinions, and like different policies, but we need to mutually respect each other. And just because I don't think or believe like you doesn't mean that I'm a bad person, and vice versa. Because you think a certain way doesn't mean you're a bad person. And we need to just get back to the roots of, what it says in the Bible, and to love each other, for who we are. We're all different, and God made us that. God wired us all different. We're going to think different. We're going to be in different situations, and we have to respect that. And until we can get there and show each other it's okay to be different, but we have to respect each other, that's the key. And I don't know how to make that, just like Rob said, what do we do here local? And my office manager said earlier, because what you guys are getting ready, the four of you guys are doing tonight, is going to be very, very important to start others to have very similar conversations. And Tony, just like you and Ed have had the conversation, I had the exact same one with Ed. And, it made me understand, Yogi, you and I were freezing in the deer blind, and I understood more, and I listened more very closely, and was attuned to what it is was coming from your heart. Until we can start doing that, it's just going to be a sad day in this country. And I'm thankful for having the opportunity to spend with you, Rob. First time meeting you. Love you, brother. I hope to get to meet you in person, give you a hug. Yogi, I hope COVID ends soon, so when I do see you, you will hug me back. I'm still going to hug you regardless. I love you, Tony.
Go ahead, Tony.
I love all y'all. Rob, nice meeting you. Great conversation. And look forward to, hopefully I get to meet you in person one day, and we can continue this conversation, or any conversation we want to have. I love it. I had a good time. I think it was a great, positive conversation. Hopefully people got something out of it, and can help change and make a different move on this. Our country's going in the wrong direction, everybody, and we've got to change things. We got to love one another. You got to respect one another. That's the thing. You got to respect one another. It's okay to have differences, but listen to people and understand where they're coming from. But if you still don't agree to disagree, and don't take it to a hatred part. It shouldn't be about hate. It should be about love. I love all you guys. Go Browns for Steve, and Roll Tide, baby. They rolled the other night. They look good too.
They look good.
Oh my gosh, they look good. That's my boys. I've been an Alabama fan all my life, and
Ditto.
They capped it off last night. And I tell you what, they won every award you could possibly win out there. And if anybody can get anything out of it, you like football, they're a class act too, and they did it together. They didn't trash mouth anybody. They didn't disrespect anybody. They went out and played football like you're supposed to play football, and they did all the talking by the points on the board and how they conducted themselves. And that's kudos from the coach, from the administration, from the school's administration, all the way down to the parents of those kids, and the guidance they've all gotten. So, I mean, it was a great win, and a great team win, a great Alabama win, and just a great bunch of young men. So hopefully some people got a lot of positive vibes back out of that, like I did.
Hey, Tony and Rob and Yogi, let me interrupt real quick. We're talking about football. The conversation we had the other night, if we were all on the same team and three of us did play on the same team, we had some really hard practices back in the day under Mojo, and we used to knock the crap out of each other. And, we loved each other. And you know what? Sometimes I was the one helping somebody up because I just put somebody on the rear end. And sometimes I was the one reaching for the hand, needing help to get up because someone knocked me down. But you know what? At the end of the day, we're still on the same team. And we fought hard. I know, Rob, if I was with you, we'd be doing the exact same thing on the same team. But That's what this country needs. We're going to have differences, and we are going to get knocked down, and we've got to pick each other up.
Heck, Ed knocked me out in the Davis County game, and I still don't remember it.
Don't tell Ed that because he's going to have a.
Oh, he's already laughing. I know he's listening. He's like, yeah, he hit me right in the back of the head, knocked me out, split my helmet.
Go ahead, Rob.
I'm echoing what everybody else said. I thoroughly enjoyed this. It is great meeting you two, Tony and Chip. I get a chance. Y'all ever get, street lights and things of that nature down in Henderson? I definitely will come down and visit.
There are some.
You ought to see what we're doing. We're up now. We got street lights all the way down it.
I could help it, but no, we do need to have respect for each other, and we throw that word around a lot. But I think we tolerate each other more than we respect each other, and I think until we get back to genuinely respecting man to man, man to woman, black to white, what have you, I think we will still have those problems because, it's okay to disagree, but don't get into this dislike. And that's what I see a lot now of you disagree with somebody and then they don't want to talk to you no more. It's like, well, hold on, man. We just had a disagreement. It's okay. Yeah. And that's my favorite line, Tony. I tell people all the time, let's agree to disagree. Rather than me going back and forth and you trying to convince me and me trying to convince you, let's just agree to disagree, but we should still be able to be friends. And if not, then we were just acquaintances. We weren't friends. Big difference.
Right.
Big difference.
I think for me, just having everybody here on this panel that I have much love for and respect, it was refreshing to hear your perspective on different things. I tried not to have a preconceived notion on what answers you guys were going to give. And I'm not going to lie, there was a couple of answers where I just stood back and was like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. But that's a good thing because 85% of this conversation, I was a student being taught certain things that's going to help me and benefit me in the long run. I hope everybody, because right now in the chat room, I'm getting questions and comments and statements out to Swazuli. A lot of people is listening and learning what it really means to have 4 grown-ass men from different, diverse perspectives listening to one another and learning from it and then moving on from it. With all that being said, it's a beautiful thing.
Agreed.
We need to continue this. And not only if we can't continue it amongst each other, which hopefully will be on another topic, I would definitely say continue this with other folks. Somebody listening to this has been inspired. Somebody listening to this like, okay, well, I'm ready to have a conversation with Tony because I didn't understand that initially. I just thought that, hey, he was this. That. Somebody's hearing Rob or Chip or myself and like, okay, damn, I didn't understand that. I didn't know. And again, we only scratched the surface of numerous conversations I thought we were going to have. I had about 1,000 damn questions in my head.
For example.
For
example.
Yeah, for example. All right, we won a prize tonight. So, with that being said, I got mad love and respect for you guys. I can't say that enough. I thank you for taking the time out. I know we said it was only going to be an hour. We went over, it's damn near an hour and a half, but I think it was much needed. I hope that one day we can all come together where hopefully this pandemic is over with, where we can all sit down, have a beer, and continue this conversation, and then bring other folks into it. Because, and let me also say this, the one thing I respect more than anything, the stuff that people put on Facebook are not willing to come and explain their views. To me, that says a hell of a lot more than anything is that you're a Facebook thug, but you can't go and articulate why you say the things you say. You're a social media thug, but you don't want to come in person and have a conversation with somebody. So with all that being said, I always, and we're going to end Chip with a prayer, if you don't mind. I always live by this. It's Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I go by that. When I wake up in the morning, I say thank you. When I get ready to go to bed, I say thank you. And I do not take my life for granted because everything is not a guarantee. For real.
Amen. Amen.
And with that being said, Chip, take us out.
Dear Lord, I just thank you, Lord, for the conversation, Lord. I thank you for Rob, for Daryl, for Tony, and for all those that are listening, Lord. Lord, it's okay to be different. You made us different, Lord. Lord, we just need to love and respect, and this is the step in the right direction, Lord. These are real conversations. These are real issues, Lord. Lord, and Lord, I pray for President Trump, and I pray for our new President Biden, Lord. Our country needs to be healed. We need to get all this trash behind us, Lord. We need to move forward. We need to come together, Lord. And we are making a difference in our little small circle here, panel of 4 tonight, Lord. And I ask and pray that others across this country do the exact same thing from here on out, Lord. I love you and praise you and look forward to seeing my brother soon. In the only precious name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Now, before we leave, I always try to make sure anybody want anything. Like I know for me, my company, Hendo Health and Wellness, I got shirts coming out. They will be coming out. I just got my order in. Already got you covered on a lot of different things. So
Been waiting.
Yeah, I know. I just got them in. So they are coming. I'm working on them. Matter of fact, I got a meeting with a seamstress on Friday. Website is coming up. More videos are coming out. I will be coming to Henderson to promote. It'll be soon as it starts up. So I will be letting folks know. So be mindful that Hendo is coming back home, and we're going to be doing some things. And like I said, we are going to have this conversation again. Now, the only problem is that I tried to go to O'Fallon, Illinois, but they only have about 2 people. So I can't really go there.
So when,
I got to.
Yeah, no.
so when you say you going to Henderson, is that the class you gonna do with the livestock?
Anyway, go ahead, Tony. Did you have something to say?
Yeah, I got a suggestion. I say we do this again.
Yes.
And maybe we do it in person somewhere. Maybe we go to Illinois and do it. We go to St. Louis and do it. Or y'all come to Henderson.
In O'Fallon. So, I mean, again. But y'all get more than welcome to come to my house. We can always do whatever. So, like I said, we're gonna figure it out. But with that being said, thank y'all again. Appreciate it. Love to everybody. We out of here.
All right.
Love
All right.
y'all too. Be good.
Love y'all.
Bye.
Bye.